Hello, hello. If you can hear me and see me, please smash the like button. I'll be sending out a text and all that sort of stuff while you're waiting. For me, it's loading, but I am in a moving vehicle right now, so let's see.
With a super cute dog.
A cute doggy. Very cute doggy. Here we go. So we have who you can see on the screen here. This is Hypatia. This is Tina Desiree Berg's dog. So cute. Filming us is John in the back seat here. Oh, there's Hypatia's cute little face. She's so sweet. She's actually only 5.5 months old. She is gigantic, just huge. So by the time she's a year old, God knows, she'll be taking up this entire car like Clifford the Big Red Dog. Tina's here, so Tina's driving, and you guys, you know how when Jordan and I do these car live streams, you all yell at Jordan because you don't like how he's driving, and like you're like, get out of the left lane. Just, Tina's a great driver. No driving comments, no backseat drivers. Hello, Tina.
Hello, welcome to LA. We are actually getting on the 10 freeway, and I'm guessing there'll be less traffic now because of COVID, but it's about 5 o'clock, so you're about to see how bad LA traffic is.
Yep, so we're here in LA. If you have been following our travels, John and I we went to Portland first.
And there's
Oh.
it was almost an accident.
Almost an accident. So this is the real deal, news on the road. But we started out in Portland, and we covered, the Proud Boys, we covered Black Lives Matter protests, we covered, I don't know, what else did we cover in Portland? I don't remember. But then we went down to San Diego, and we started to cover some indigenous protests down at the border. We unfortunately had a couple of interviews fall through, but we got some great footage from Trump's border wall being built right through, and construction going right through indigenous land, digging up and messing with ceremonial sites and burial sites and all sorts of artifacts and things like that, which is just despicable. We are here in LA, where we've covered fires, the wildfires in particular, a devastating a home, animal sanctuary, 11 acres that was taken down by the wildfires. Cheryl Poindexter was that interview, and we went to her home, and it truly was like walking through a funeral of sorts. I almost envision it kind of like, when you see those images of the Titanic. Oh, there's lots of traffic here. Welcome to LA, so I've learned. But walking through that burned out home was like the images you see of the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean, just completely devastated and destroyed, yet you can still see little flashes of normal life, I guess. Very, very eerie, very, very sad. Xylo asks, is this channel Republican or Democrat? So we are progressive. Jordan and I make no bones about the fact that we are Bernie Sanders supporters, that we are progressives, but we cover the news, as it is. And we tell you when we have an opinion. So yeah, that's what we are. So welcome. If you're new, Xylo, please subscribe to the channel. Jordan just sent the text out, so make sure you are on our text list so you get it next time. Text COUP to 370-370. Lots of people are loving the dog. Dog is camera dog. That's Hypatia, who I've learned is what, a Greek goddess?
Okay, not a goddess, but she was a philosopher. She was a mathematician, and she was murdered because the Christians, this is like, I want to say 300, 250 BC, I can't remember exactly, but she was murdered because it was considered blasphemy for a woman to be a mathematician and a scientist. So when I adopted Hypatia, she had such a strong female warrior energy that was the name that popped into my head.
I love it. Hypatia is so cute. She's really stolen our hearts. In particular, I'll give you guys a little behind the scenes. John and Hypatia are best buddies now. Yeah. We went to, obviously this is the first time John and I have met Hypatia. Tina just adopted Hypatia, again, a 5.5-month-old puppy who was gigantic. But we were grocery shopping, and John's like, oh, I've got to go to the doggy aisle and get her some snacks. And since then he's bought her a giant bone, and Hypatia follows him around the house, so it's cute. Keep smashing the like button. the thumbs up button right underneath the screen. Share this stream. Karen Webster, you're amazing. Thank you so much for the $10 in the super chat. Karen says, this is what I can give. I give to you. Karen, you are wonderful. You're always such a wonderful supporter. I hope you're doing well. Keep smashing the like button. I know Anani Moose, a big 5-month-old puppy. Everywhere we go, people are like, oh, how old is she? They must think, full grown. It's like, no, 5.5 months.
And then you see their faces go.
Yeah, people are absolutely shocked. Oh, and that brings up a good point. John has awesome harmonica skills. If you're a member, you can see him playing the harmonica. Really, really good times. We've been working really, really hard, and some days we work day to night. We've also, John and I, this is our first time to LA. Tina lives here, grew up here. It's really an interesting place. I would say the first day or two we went to the Black Lives Matter protest, and it was interesting to me that it is much more active still than in a lot of other cities. And Tina says it's going on all the time. And Tina's been covering that from the start.
Well, so what they chose to do here, which I think was a smart move. In the past, we've had bursts of protests that occur around shootings and what have you, and then they kind of die down and everybody goes their separate ways. So this time they came together and they decided we're going to protest 24/7 until something changes in the city. And that's exactly what they've been doing. So there's absolutely protests every night in the city of LA.
Jordan demands to show the dog right now. Okay. If possible. Hypatia is really the main attraction here, for sure. So we're going to get into some stories, but I definitely want to fill you in on everything that's happened here in LA. So as I said, the Black Lives Matter protests, there was a large gathering of Trump supporters, and we certainly asked them some questions and got some interesting responses back. I knew that Trump supporters are increasingly interested in QAnon, for example, but every single one that I asked believes in QAnon. Every single one.
No, that's definitely true. And we've had some QAnon protests here in Hollywood. If you look at some of the flyers they've been sending out, they're fairly reasonable. Like, we're against pedophilia, we're against sex trafficking. But then when you go to these things and you realize that they think the government's being run by a ring of pedophile, satanic Jewish sex traffickers, you're like, what the hell's happening here?
Yeah, a lot of anti-Semitism mixed in with this QAnon. It's really disturbing, the things that these people earnestly believe. They truly are brainwashed. This QAnon really is a cult, and it's taking over people who wouldn't have believed it 3 years ago when it got started.
No, and it's a large chunk of them. They had a protest here 2.5 weeks ago, and there were hundreds. I was shocked. Hundreds of people.
It's scary, and I think it's only going to get worse for sure. Andy Paperno, $10 in the super chat. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jen, Tina, and John for the great reporting. Well, thank you for your support as always, Andy. We're having a nice time. We're working hard. We went to a Jeff Bezos protest in front of where we started off at a park, and then we marched to Jeff Bezos's mansion in Beverly Hills. And this doesn't surprise me at all. I will say I was taken aback by it, but as soon as we got right on in front of, like, at the end of Jeff Bezos's driveway, which, by the way, his home is completely it's huge, but it's surrounded by hedges so tall you couldn't even possibly do anything.
Probably not an exact 75 feet. About, yeah, they were
I'd
tall.
say they were enormous.
And we had drones.
Yes, so we got out there at the end of the driveway. This was led by Christian Smalls, who, if you'll remember, Jordan interviewed. He was the gentleman who had worked at Amazon for about 5 years. He was a manager at the Staten Island Amazon building, and he wanted to help keep workers safe in light of COVID. And so he started to organize in order to do just that. And imagine this. The Amazon folks did not like that. He ended up getting fired, and they cited that he was using unsafe he was creating an unsafe working condition. They were saying he wasn't properly social distancing and things like that. Well, that's exactly what he was fighting against. So they used the very thing he was fighting against in their smear campaign against him. So he actually, he made the rounds in news because he was so unjustly fired, and other people had had kind of the same experience. So now here we are months later, and he really has a movement behind him. People are disgusted by this. So they marched to Jeff Bezos' house. Jeff Bezos, who famously, Amazon doesn't pay any taxes. He's become many, 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 many times over more wealthy during the pandemic. Billionaires have increased their wealth by 65% during the pandemic. It's really disgusting, horrible. So marched to his mansion. We're live streaming, from the park over to his mansion. All of a sudden, the feed goes down. The live feed goes down. I looked at my phone. The live view, so you guys know, pulls from several different cellular networks and kind of tries to make the best feed, and it does a good job. It works in most places. And all of a sudden, it didn't work anymore. So I looked at my phone. AT&T wasn't working. Couldn't get a text through. Tina's phone wasn't working. No cell signal. John, same thing. All three of us on different cell networks. So there you go. There was a blocker of some sort in front of Bezos' house. I walked down the street and called Jordan to kind of verify that, and he's like, "Yeah, it's totally down." So that's what Jeff Bezos. That's Jeff Bezos' response, I guess, to the protests on his mansion.
Yeah, here's the thing too. He has the wealth in order to make any of those things happen. And how do you fight that? The problem with these guys that are so wealthy that they can really buy anything they want. I don't think that's a crazy statement, right? We couldn't block cell signals. We'd probably get in trouble for doing that.
Absolutely. And Tina, you mentioned when we arrived too, there was a drone hovering above us and a helicopter and just all in the sky.
Both, yeah, a drone and a helicopter. And then we also tried to call him on the call box. He didn't answer, of course.
Yeah, so no communication from Jeff Bezos, but the protest itself, kind of made national news, which surprised me in a good way. I was glad that it did make some noise. So we've been doing a lot here in LA. We've also, Tina's birthday is coming up here in this month. So yesterday we actually had a party for her. It was really fun. You guys know and love Ron Placone, Fiorella, Pasta. They were all there. It was really fun. What do you think about your party?
It was a lot of fun. I appreciate that. And we had a really good chocolate cake.
We had an amazing chocolate cake. It was kind of funny, guys. We were scrambling last minute to put everything together. I really wanted to put up decorations and stuff for Tina's birthday. But the day, as the day went on, we were just running out of time. So I was like, okay, we need a cake. We'd finally eaten for the first time that day. And then we were driving. We're like, okay, we need to get this, and this.
We need IPAs. That's my favorite.
You should see how many cartons Tina had stuffed the cart with. But anyway, so John found this bakery on his phone that was nearby, like on Yelp or something. And so we called this bakery and we said, okay, do you have any chocolate cake? Can you deliver it? And she said, yeah, if you call DoorDash, they can deliver it. And then we're still on the phone call. We're like, well, wait, maybe we should just pick it up. And so we're trying to decide this right as we're speaking to this poor woman on the other end of the line. And finally, we all just three screamed like, yeah, we'll take it. Because she had just baked the perfect cake. It was as if it were meant to be.
Yeah,
and we hung.
It's fresh. We just baked it. I'm like.
We hung up and we're like, oh, we were kind of aggressive about asking her to hold that cake. Don't sell that cake. So that's behind the scenes. As you can tell, we've been having a nice time, and Tina's been so lovely as a host. Hypatia, a host doggy, just wonderful. So doing a lot of work here. Also interesting for me to see the West Coast and for John as well. Keep those super chats coming. Andy P, $5 in the super chat saying happy birthday, Tina. Yay. Yes, birthday super chats are very, very welcome for Tina for sure. Keep smashing the like button, the thumbs up button right underneath this stream. Oh, and that reminds us that Jordan was the first one to interview Chris Smalls. Absolutely. Right. He Jordan saw the story right away and knew he had to interview Chris. So he got that first interview. It was really, really incredible. And here we are months later. Chris seems to be doing well. He's determined and he's focused. He's great. So we have 124 people watching. I hope you guys continue to smash the like button, share this stream. Let's get into some news, shall we, Tina?
Yeah.
It's not a fun a fun time.
No, I think I want to. Can we show the video of what happened last night in downtown LA at the protest?
Yeah. So yesterday, as I mentioned, we were actually doing Tina's birthday celebration, and others, because they are ongoing, were at this protest in downtown LA. So I'm gonna pull up a video from Rise Images at Rise_images. Pull to Jordan. That's a new phrase. A protester. Jordan's actually a good driver. You are too. A protester challenges an advancing Los Angeles police vehicle. This occurred in front of the International Jewelry Center in downtown LA as LAPD responded to the crowd breaking windows. So I'm going to make this larger and we'll play it here. Let me do this now. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm going to restart it here. Okay. 1 second, my friends. That's good? So just a short clip there, but Tina, tell them what they're seeing.
So this particular area of downtown that they're in is the jewelry district. So obviously there's a lot of wholesalers there, loose diamonds, like very high-end jewelry making happens in this particular area. But what I found what was interesting about this when I saw it this morning was that this is, to me, the inevitable outcome of what's been going on. Here you have a protester that's so angry and emboldened that he's literally saying to the LAPD, do it, kill me, go ahead, do it. I dare you to do this, right? So it's kind of, I think, a little bit of a turning point. And again, this has been going on every night. Just to be clear, this 24/7 thing is definitely happening. Every night there's been protests in Los Angeles in different parts of the city. So, but to me, this is like a bit of an apex because now you've got a protester literally saying, "I dare you to do this," because he's so feels so protected that the guy is actually not going to do it. I feel like it's kind of a turn of the screw in the way the energy is going, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think it's interesting, with this gentleman who stands in front of the cop car and says that. I don't know his story. I don't know how many days he's been out there protesting. I know nothing about him, but just from his tone of voice and face, I would guess that he's been out there a lot. And he's like at this point where it's like, come on, we've seen you guys out night after night. You're brutalizing everybody. Come on, do it. Like, let's do it. He's probably at a point.
It's almost like you're watching an action movie and he's like, let's get it on, It's like crazy.
Exactly. So what do you... Tina, from covering this night after night, you are constantly out there covering what's happening in LA. What do you think this particular moment kind of signifies?
So recently, I would say that it's the sheriff's department that's been very violent, and the LAPD has sort of cooled itself down a little bit. And so, for example, that night when Andy was beaten up by the sheriff's department, that was the night after
Andy, a protester beaten by...
Yeah, he was the one that was beaten by the riot shields, where they were hitting his leg up and down. The night before, there had been another protest in a different part of LA that was strictly the LAPD, because some sections of town where they overlap, you're going to see both sheriffs and LAPD. It depends on whether it's close to an unincorporated part of the city or just the city. But the night before we were in downtown, which is strictly LAPD, they kept their distance. It was the first time I've seen this. There was a huge presence of officers there, but they absolutely kept their distance. They didn't want to engage with any of the protesters. I shot some video where several of the BLM protesters were trying to have conversations with them, confronting them, taunting them even a little bit. And they didn't seem to take the bait. So this is definitely a turn of events, because in the past the LAPD has been just very responsive with what they call less lethal weapons, which I call still lethal because they're still very deadly. And we haven't been seeing that the last couple of weeks. So I don't know if this is a PR move in the sense where Garcetti said, we're paying out all of these lawsuits. We're getting very bad publicity because people are being harmed. Journalists are being harmed. We have several incidents where LAPD has harmed journalists. And whether or not it's just a PR thing or they're actually trying to change their ways remains to be seen. But I also want to mention that because of the May 30th incident, which is where things got very bad, we're now in discovery on that major lawsuit that's being handled by the National Lawyers Guild. And part of that discovery period is going to be emails and communications between Garcetti's office and the LAPD top brass. So I think what we're going to find, and we were talking about this earlier, Jen, a lot of what happened on May 30th wasn't isolated to Los Angeles. You were brutalized that day in D.C. John had an issue with the New York PD where an officer actually pulled a gun. And then you go online and you see incident after incident of press folks being attacked by police in every city practically. Not just the protesters, it was both. So I think what I think we might see is that there was some sort of agreed upon idea of what was going to happen that day with other mayors across the country, that we need to handle this, we need to handle it swiftly, abruptly, in this manner. So I'm curious to see where that goes, but I think it backfired in a way. I think people are fed up, they've had enough, and the unintended consequence of that from the LAPD is that you now have protesters that are walking up to them and saying, I dare you to kill me, go ahead and do it. Does that make sense?
It does. And you know, it's interesting. We were talking about this off camera too. May 30th was a day of hell. We were in 3 different cities, all of us brutalized and mistreated by police and so many journalists and so many protesters across the country. It was really an interesting day. So tell the audience more about this lawsuit, like what you're talking about related to that.
Okay, so the National Lawyers Guild, which I think lots of people are familiar with, I would say they are sort of a more leftist organization than the ACLU is, but they handle civil rights litigation and what have you. They are handling a lawsuit against the Los Angeles Police Department here with BLM as their plaintiff. Sorry, as the plaintiff for once. And I believe that they have other lawsuits that are going on across the country as well, other parts of the NLG, not just LA. And I think the main thrust of that is 2 things. You have force of use lawsuits, right, where they used deadly force or even non-lethal weapons or still lethal weapons in a bad way that was inappropriate. And then the second thing they're talking about is infringement of First Amendment rights, which I think is incredibly important.
Absolutely. Good explanation. We have lots of chats coming in. I'm trying to keep up with the live stream chat here. You guys are really fascinating as usual.
So we are pointing, just to point this out, we are headed toward the Pacific Coast Highway right now. So you're going to see something quintessentially Los Angeles and California in about 5 minutes.
Very exciting. I love these Status Coup tours of various places that we're in. This is exciting stuff. I hope you guys are enjoying going right along with us. Keep those super chats coming. They really help defray the cost of this reporting. As you may know, I do have a blog up with behind the scenes photos at statuscoup.com/West Coast. And please, if you're able to support Status Coup's reporting in any amounts, head over there, statuscoup.com/West Coast, and support the cost of this trip at any amount.
There's the ocean.
Ooh, the ocean's coming, guys. So exciting.
All right, there it is.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah, so now we're going to be driving straight up Pacific Coast Highway. So we're going north right now, towards Malibu.
Malibu. I'm pretty excited. I've never been to
Autonomy lives.
This is where the rich friends of Malibu, or the rich friends of the coast live.
Right.
Statuscoup.com/West Coast. Support this trip at any amount. We've been so lucky. You know, Tita's been a wonderful host. The cost of travel is still very, very expensive. We have plane travel and food and all sorts of things to cover on this trip. But it's important. You know, we've brought you some really important reporting here that you wouldn't see anywhere else. I'm proud of the work we've done on this trip and the work that's yet to come. Keep smashing the like button. Keep loving Hypatia, the puppy, and we'll dive in more. Do you have anything else you want to say on LA, or I've got a not so fun topic next? Well, not that one was fun at all.
Yeah, I can go on for days, as you know, but you know, I just think everything's going to continue to come to a head. I don't know that the outcome of this particular election is going to change that course. I think no matter who wins this election, we're going to continue to see protests and we're going to see civil unrest. I don't think that's going to change. It's not going to get fixed. And part and parcel to that is we still don't have any real economic relief in sight. You know, we can talk about that next. I don't know if that's on your list, but.
Yeah, we can. We're going to talk about Trump and the stimulus. It's not, no good. It's no good.
Is he still alive? I'm sorry.
Trump is still alive. We're no judgment either way, but we are keeping an eye out.
I don't know. You know, that video that he came out the other day, he literally looks like he's gasping like a goldfish out of water to me. Like you could, like, I don't understand why he didn't stay in the hospital. He's sick.
He doesn't look good. He didn't look good when he came out of the hospital. I think it's a total PR move that he came out at all, for sure. Jordan reminds you to take a look at Tina's wonderful report on the LA Sheriff Alex Villanueva. I always mispronounce it. Allowing a Proud Boys enthusiast to speak at a press conference. Tina did a great job on that report, so check that out for sure.
That was just shocking to me. I still can't believe that happened. I had been researching these guys for a few weeks because I had seen them in attendance at multiple protests in Tahunga and Beverly Hills. And I noted that these were the same guys that I'd also seen in Portland, Oregon, down in Orange County and Huntington Beach, et cetera, et cetera. And I had not quite had, the funny thing is I had not quite formulated an angle on this yet. And then when she came on stage at the press conference, I was like, what? What's going on here? This is Elsa. This is the gal that, like, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, there's the angle right there. There it is. Shockingly enough.
Yeah, definitely check that out. All right, so keep smashing the like button, keep sharing. Let's talk about something that should piss everybody off. So this comes out of the Washington Post. Of course, it's been reported everywhere by now. Trump cuts off stimulus relief talks until after election, upending prospects for aid. So a day after his release from the hospital, the president instructs Treasury Secretary to stop negotiating with the House Speaker. This doesn't make any sense at all.
No, it really doesn't.
If Trump really wanted to, boost his numbers in the polls, what better way than to give people not even a bunch of money, but some money right before the election?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm actually surprised by this. I thought we might see him outflank the Democrats on the left again with the stimulus, but apparently he's not doing that, this is an odd move. It's a mistake.
I agree. And Jordan and I were talking about that too. Jordan's mentioned it on live streams. We thought that Trump, as you say, would outflank the Democrats on the left. It doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, it's just so simple. Give people some relief.
Right.
Give them some hope, especially if after you've screwed things up enough with coronavirus to kill over 200,000 people. It sounds sick, but in politics, that's what they do. They do things to make people forget about what's happening and about what's happened in the past. So giving people some money, a nice forget-me pill there. So the article starts out, economic relief talks screeched to a halt Tuesday as President Trump ordered Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin to stop negotiating with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi until after the election. In a series of tweets, of course, less than 24 hours after he was released from a hospital, Trump accused Pelosi of failing to negotiate in good faith after she rejected an opening bid from Mnuchin in their latest round of talks. So Trump wrote, I have instructed my representatives to stop negotiating until after the election when, immediately after I win, we will pass a major stimulus bill that focuses on hardworking Americans and small business. So that's the thing. I mean, he's putting it out there, immediately after I win, we'll do this. No, that's not how you get people to vote. It's also not moral. It's not humanistic.
It's a mistake. It's a political suicide in one way, in my opinion. If you're right, if he had given another round of stimulus, even if it had only been $800 per se, not enough, but it would have been something. And why this is what kind of drives it home is that the Democrats have not been forthcoming in providing real stimulus either. They could have gone the Bernie Tulsi route, the Andrew Yang route of installing an emergency UBI. And right off the bat, we've talked about this. Chuck Schumer was talking about low interest loans instead. So that initial $1,200 check was an outflank on the left. And I think this is a mistake on his behalf because if he had done that again, it might have secured his reelection. I think this was a huge mistake. And it's bad for the American people. Once again, the American people are the losers no matter what.
Yes, 100%. I want to thank Andy for the wonderful, wonderful, Andy, how did you become so amazing? For the wonderful support in our West Coast reporting trip fundraiser. Thank you so much. Be like Andy and support the cost of this trip. Statuscoup.com/West Coast. You can help defray the cost at any amount. It really helps us. And you guys are the reason that we've been able to get out here to do the type of reporting that no one else is doing. Let's see here if there's anything in the chat that I'm missing. Stunning. We are driving by some of the most stunning views I've ever seen. It's just beautiful here on the West Coast for sure. Aw, people are saying Tina and Jen are good together. I agree. Tina is so amazing. We've had a really nice time. We've done some great work. Keep those super chats coming. And don't forget, it's Tina's birthday this month. So it's also Anat's birthday in a couple days. So keep the super chats coming just for good birthday fun. All right, so barring another unexpected development, Trump's declaration kills any near-term chance of new aid for millions of Americans who remain out of work and at risk of eviction. Pelosi and Mnuchin spoke shortly after Trump's tweets. Can you, Trump's tweets? It's so ridiculous.
Mnuchin is just an awful human being, as an aside.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's absolutely terrible.
He's responsible for a lot of pain and agony here in the state of California. I'm pretty sure that that's gotten out there in the world as of now, but in case people don't know, he foreclosed wrongly on a lot of homeowners here in California during the last crisis, and he did so gleefully. And really, what angers me the most is Kamala Harris really refused to prosecute him, even though she had ample evidence to do so. So particularly here in California, Steve Mnuchin's not well loved.
Yeah, his name just brings shivers to people.
Yeah. I mean, I cringe every time. It's like, ugh. Horrible.
So Mnuchin informed Pelosi that negotiations were indeed over. Trump said he instead asked Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell not to delay, but to instead focus full time on approving my outstanding nominee to the United States Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett. Amy Coney Barrett is so deeply into her religion that she's horrifying. She's on Trump level horrifying.
Pence level horrifying.
That's what I meant. I meant Pence. Both. Yeah, definitely. So both on the God is telling me what to do. God is my, God comes first instead of, the country, which is what your job is.
She cannot be on SCOTUS. This is totally unacceptable. This could be devastating.
And with all of the Republicans getting COVID, I know that they're desperate. They're kind of seeing the writing on the wall. So I think it's a move out of desperation that Trump is doing this.
Oh, I don't disagree. And I think we're going to see more COVID infections this week because we're now getting into the end of the incubation period, right? So that's like in the next couple of days, we're going to see more infections coming out, I think.
And today we saw Stephen Miller, Trump aide, down with COVID. And he's been working from home, I believe it was, for about 5 days. And he tested negative every day until today. And as Tina said, this is the incubation period. We don't know who else is going to pop up with this. It's an enormous number of Trump, of people who surround Trump that now have COVID.
Yeah, the pool is potentially quite large.
It certainly is. And I don't know. I don't know that I certainly do not trust that Trump is actually fine. I don't know how dire it is. But it's really concerning for so many different reasons. So Trump's pronouncement came after days of sustained, if long-shot, negotiations between Pelosi and Mnuchin. Pelosi later speculated to Democratic colleagues on a conference call that the president's sudden change in position might be connected to the steroids he's taking as he battled COVID-19. Yeah, steroids. So I guess she's hinting that this is a side effect of him steroids and that he's out of his mind. Is that reading between the lines?
Sounds like that, which is kind of an odd thing. I mean, I just think he's Trump being Trump, really.
Yeah, this seems like kind of a wild accusation. Can you imagine if it was on the opposite side? The person's making that person nuts.
Yeah, no.
It might be true, but they would get a lot of shifted from the economic talks to solely pushing for Supreme Court confirmation. This article, of course, goes on and on. The bottom line is both sides were screwing around. Neither side did a good job. Neither side had Americans' best interest at heart. Yeah. And now Trump has cut it all off in a really horrific and bad political move, a move that's horrifying for Americans.
Right.
And yeah, screwing himself in the election so he can focus on the Supreme Court. It's almost like a sickness, like they're obsessed with this.
It also tells us where their priorities are. So if they have to, let go of some things, the thing they're going to focus on is the SCOTUS position. So that's what's important to the Republican Party, per se, not necessarily just Trump. That's their long-term thing that they want to focus on. So if he doesn't win re-election, at least they get the SCOTUS pick in.
Right. Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. Let's see. I'm going to go through the super chats. Yeah, you guys are excited about the beach.
Can you guys see the beach? It's beautiful, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I think sometimes I can. Keep smashing the like button if you haven't yet. Subscribe to this channel if you're new here. Text COUP to 370-370. Now I'm going to get into a topic that makes me really furious on a personal level and a professional level. So you guys are all fully aware that there was a ridiculous and horrible and evil smear campaign against Jordan 3 years ago, back when he was still with TYT. So I think, everybody at this point knows what the truth is. There are still complete idiots who have bad intentions, who continue to try to smear him. We just hit the Malibu city limit, by the way, guys. Okay, so this has been really hard. Jordan has had, hold on, I have to end this call. Jordan has had it's been a difficult 3 years. It was really horrifying for him. For someone who would never do anything like what was accused, it was like more than a knife through his heart. Like, I can't even explain what it was like to see Jordan at that stage, just so broken. He would never do anything like what was accused of him. It was the height of the Me Too era. So particularly difficult to have a false accusation against you. But he's risen from the ashes. Oops, my God, sorry guys. Let me turn my sound down here. He's risen from the ashes, and rightly so. These people tried to destroy his career in journalism. These people who had this smear campaign against him were holding up stories that saved lives. The reason that we couldn't get our Flint story out sooner is because of these false accusations, because of these horrible people who were so petty and so childish even. And I would say evil. Like, I truly think it's evil to falsely accuse someone. I'm someone who has, as a woman, I've been assaulted. For a woman to make a false accusation, I think is just doubly, triply bad. It's just so, how could you do this to someone who's innocent? You try to destroy a man's life, and you're also setting back real stories of rape and assault and putting us all just, I can't eloquently talk about this topic because it makes me so furious. I was with Jordan every step of the way during that, and he completely innocent, and just the smears are horrible. So zooming forward to today, obviously Jordan's career is great. He's done great journalism. He's been completely vindicated. There's no doubt in any sane person's mind that the smears were absolutely wrong. He's getting married soon to his fiancée Anat, who is wonderful. So my life and career was upended. Yet HuffPo was legally shielded by Section 230 because it was a blogger, not a staff employee. So Section 230, let me know if I'm understanding this right, Tina, where it basically absolves social media sites from responsibility for things that others blog or put up on their platform.
I'd say that's pretty fair. There are two sides to that equation. I'm probably going to err on what Jordan's saying here. I haven't read his tweets yet. This is also something that's been used for sex trafficking issues where they can't, it gives them protection 100%. And on the free speech side, you've had organizations like EFF get involved in this. I mean, obviously it's a broader conversation. I think there's a way to frame it where the bad stuff can be done away with and the good stuff can stay. And I think that's the conversation we need to focus on. But
okay, apparently it was buffering. So guys, it might buffer sometimes because we're driving. So hopefully it's evened out now. I don't know what was lost in the buffering, but essentially a horrific smear 3 years ago by just a horrible, horrible lying woman with no credibility, tried to smear Jordan and accuse him of wrongdoing. It was completely false, absolutely false. So here we are 3 years ago. Donald Trump tweeted about Section 230 today, which, as we explained, kind of absolves social media sites from responsibility for the things pasted or posted on their platform. Yeah, by their users. Yeah, exactly.
That's the important. The idea is, the free speech side is saying that that's necessary to preserve the democracy of the system. But I think it's important to keep in mind that it's employee versus user. So users of Twitter are not employees of Twitter. Bloggers on sites, they're not employees of Huffington Post. So there's a different set of liability claims that go with each one of those things.
Yeah, and so I see some chats. I won't get too much into it, but fuck Tim Black.
Why? Can we? What was Trump's thinking on this? I'm actually curious to hear that too. As well.
You know, I don't actually know the background of why he hates 230. No, he just tweeted that in caps. So anyway, what Jordan tweeted was 3 years ago when a domestic abuser blogging for Huffington Post falsely accused me of sexual assault with no editorial oversight. My life and career was upended. So what Jordan is referring to, this random loser who is a domestic abuser, and that is true, wrote a post accusing Jordan of sexual assault based on things from a chat group that was directly designed to try to take down Jordan's journalistic career. So there was this chat group of people who were just jealous of, angry at Jordan for whatever, like people who wanted him gone, wanted him fired from TYT, wanted him done. So they made up these lies, and this again loser put up a blog post on Huffington Post contributor platform smearing Jordan top to bottom. Other websites, credible websites, picked up this not editorially whatever. They cited this blog post that was clearly just put up by a nobody, and
it wasn't verified. It wasn't substantiated evidence. Yeah, that was very bad.
Yeah, it was absolutely nothing. So this dude was able to put this up with just on his own with Huffington Post. Saying that they were legally shielded by this Section 230. So, yeah, exactly. So this is just a random blogger, just a random person not employed by Huffington Post who was able to put this up and who was able to attempt to destroy Jordan's career, his credibility, his personal life, his everything. So obviously this is a topic near and dear to Jordan's heart. By the way, Huffington Post did have to take down that blogging platform. It's gone.
It was the right thing to do. There was a lot of other misinformation on there as well. The problem is look, I understand the free speech aspects of why they're saying these, social media platforms need certain amounts of liability protection for what their users post. But at the same time, there's no commitment to veracity. And I think that is harmful. It's harmful to Americans, it's harmful to the general public because people don't know what they believe anymore. And when you have a news site, such as Huffington Post, it's like We're News, and they don't have any controls over what these users are posting at all, it's very damaging because a lot of people that read that don't realize the difference. They don't realize that this isn't a news reporter who is on staff who has, done his due diligence as far as confirming things are correct and right information before publishing, right? They can just say whatever they want.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Jordan goes on to say, this is a long thread, by the way. I think Jordan linked to it in the chat. Definitely check it out. He goes on to say, there was zero journalism involved in this blog smearing of me sexually assaulting multiple women. I was not contacted for comment. The word alleged was never used, and it accused me of assaulting one woman I'd never even met. She came out after calling for correction and never came. And in fact, so here's some behind the scenes, guys. These dumbasses who tried to take Jordan down by lying about sexual assaults, which is just one of the most scummy things you could ever do. They made up that Jordan sexually assaulted a woman. They invited her into the chat. What they didn't realize was that this woman had never met Jordan. What they also didn't realize is that I was good friends with the woman they invited into the chat that they were lying about. So I got every single one of their messages, plotting and planning.
Yeah, no, I know.
And yeah.
And I can say without equivocation, when this story first broke, I didn't know you and Jordan at that time, right?
Right.
And when that first, I was like, oh no, Jordan's been accused, believe all women. That is the place I was coming from. But luckily, I read these DMs. Wow, that was super dangerous, dude.
Yeah, some weirdo sped by on a motorcycle.
But I read these DMs. I don't know if it was Graziano that gave them to me. Somebody gave them to me, and it made it super, super clear to me what was going on. And I remember just being very angry about it because this is very damaging to the victims movement.
Yes.
When people plot to take somebody down and it's all lies, this really causes harm for actual victims of assault.
Yep.
Because it just feeds into this idea that you can't believe all women, that there are circumstances where women do lie and they manipulate the system. It's very damaging. And I do also want to point out that this is maybe 2 or 3% of the cases where this happens, but it does happen. And I would just implore folks to really think about not doing that if you've ever considered doing it, because it's very harmful.
Absolutely. A couple of points here. Sam notes that they didn't just lie, they actively plotted. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they actively plotted. I read
exactly.
It was an active plotting and they were basically saying, let's lie about this, let's make up this. There was no two ways about it. It was horrifying.
Yep, absolutely awful. And Mr. Red points out TYT didn't have Jordan's back. That's for darn sure. Jordan did exactly the right thing when it came to TYT, and I won't give all the behind the scenes because it's not my place to do. But TYT really screwed Jordan over, and they lied. They lied about him on air. They made it seem as though Jordan had stolen from the company to benefit his former nonprofit Truth Against the Machine. So not only did they wrongfully fire him, and people get this confused. People think that TYT did an investigation on the sexual assault accusation and that they then fired him. That's not true at all. Jordan told them that the accusation was coming. He was like, I'm completely innocent. I didn't do this. I wanted to let you know. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to do an investigation. I believe that they gave choices, like to the weeds here. But yeah, he was welcoming investigation. Instead of doing that, TYT fired him. I'll never forget that moment, sitting at his kitchen table with his parents. And not only that, not just firing him, but going on air, fuck you, Jank, and lying that Jordan had stolen money from, or insinuated that Jordan had stolen money and resources from TYT. Completely false. TYT, of course, lost that because they're liars and losers, and they had to settle. So just everyone sucks, except us. So Jordan goes on in this thread. I sued Huffington Post for $23.5 million because allowing this lie to be published at that time destroyed my career. I was now unemployable with a tarnished reputation and too much of a risk to potential investors to start my own media company. Yet, and again, we lost a major funder, a progressive funder, for what then became Status Coup. Because of this, we lost stories. We had stories killed from Newsweek, from Rolling Stone, we've had stories Jordan couldn't go to because someone saw this ridiculous smear. It's horrible. So these liars who did this, these plotters and these liars, and especially that horrible woman who made this accusation, they have literally killed people because we weren't able to get our Flint reporting out. Okay, as you can tell, this makes me really pissed off. So Jordan continues, yet because media companies with multi-billion-dollar corporate owners pay off our government, laws like Section 230 are written to shield them from any liability, like having no legal or financial responsibility for allowing a third-party blogger to publish a false rape accusation with no editorial oversight. Because of Huffington Post's recklessness, I had a major investor interested in funding a new media venture led by me pull out. Because of Huffington Post's recklessness, I have been rejected by some groups to report on important stories the corporate media ignores, all because they allowed a lie to be printed. At 34, after paying my dues journalistically and growing a following, I am making $75,000 less than I was 3 years ago because I was forced to start a new media outlet without real funding Despite that, Status Coup has grown to nearly 90,000 subscribers on YouTube and nearly 2,000 paid members. statuscoup.com/join. Although I never received money from Huffington Post, they did completely shut down their blogging platform after my lawsuit. The author of the original smear job on me, who Huffington Post never vetted to find out, was a domestic abuser. And he said after the fact that he rushed out the article. Let's not protect him. His name's Christian Choculus, and he's a wife beater.
Wow. I didn't know that part.
The Huffington Post author, Christian Choculus, was part of a coordinated hit job on me, in which I have screenshots I have never released to prove there was a coordinated group in a private Facebook chat plotting to add me to the list with Harvey Weinstein and get me fired from the Young Turks. Yet the Huffington Post allowed the story. This reckless blog that published on Huffington Post would never have passed the most basic journalistic vetting at any other outlet whose model wasn't to allow, in many cases, bloggers in their mom's basement to publish whatever they want with zero editorial oversight. For 2 years, I was forced to dig my career out of the ashes, now unable to even get many interviews on critical stories like the Flint water crisis and No Dapple, all because of a lie that Huffington Post allowed to be printed. More on that lie here, and Jordan links to an article speaking about that. To this day, when you Google my name, false accusations of sexual assault come up on the first page. Luckily, I met the woman of my dreams who instantly realized it wasn't true, and I'm lucky enough to be marrying in less than 2 weeks. But that disgusting lie will permanently live on the internet for my eventual children to see, my loved ones to have to see. It truly is like a knife through the heart over and over and over again. Like when you Google Jordan's name, it's there. You see losers bring it up on social media to this day because they have nothing better to do. And that is there. You know, this thing he didn't do and would never do is not able, we can't, you know, there's no way to get rid of it. It's going to be there forever on the internet. It lives on. So people need to realize the consequences of their actions. This isn't a game. These people who plotted to take Jordan down by using the Me Too movement, the damage is incalculable what they did. Just absolutely horrifying. I wish nothing good for these people. A person's immunity to reckless outlets like Huffington Post to derail... Oh, sorry, I missed one here. I do not agree with Trump that all of Section 230 should be repealed. However, it absolutely should be revised to not give blanket immunity to reckless outlets like Huffington Post to derail.
All right, so I'm glad Jordan's saying that. Jordan, I agree with you. I don't think it should be revoked. There are good parts of it. But I think it absolutely does need to be revised and fixed. I'm not going to be, like a lot of people are absolutists on 230. I absolutely am not. I agree with Jordan. I think there needs to be some sort of point, like, you know, Huffington Post is a news organization. Again, they should have some sort of commitment to veracity, or in the very least some sort of editorial oversight. And that needs to be accounted for. You can't, because there is a level of people picking up the Huffington Post and reading it and believing what they're reading, right? They're assuming that it's a news organization. It's been vetted. There's an obligation there. I think it's just a moral obligation to society. It's a public service, a public good, right?
Yep.
And I don't think that steps on free speech issues. Like some people are going to say that that's a free speech issue. I don't think it is. I think this is, again, the masking of corporate liability.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I agree.
So.
A person
But
okay.
I've actually had this argument with a lot of folks on the left. They're absolutist about 230.
Really?
So this is interesting that you brought this up, and I'm glad that Jordan said it does. I don't think it should be revoked either, but it definitely needs to have some revisions. I think we can do both things. Okay. I think we can protect the free speech of the platforms, and so people like you and I can just say, like, I don't know, Trump is blah, you know, people can still do that. But nobody's going to go on Twitter. The difference is this: nobody's going to go on Twitter and read somebody's tweet and say, well, there's a commitment to veracity here. It's a news organization. That's, you see, there's a difference here. And why should A be masked inside B?
Yeah, for sure. However, it absolutely should be revised to not give blanket immunity to reckless outlets like Huffington Post to derail a person or journalist's reputation and career and face zero financial consequences because a law like section, I don't know if I read this already.
They're protected from libel and slander lawsuits under this.
Jordan goes on to say, FYI, there are many independent journalists and non-journalists who've been falsely smeared on the internet that were not lucky like me to have help from their parents to pay for an amazing lawyer. At Bill Always Wins, that's Bill Moran. He's a wild child of a lawyer. We love him to death. To fight a David versus Goliath battle on my behalf against the Huffington Post and others. I chose not to sue the blog author. He has no money, and frankly, I wanted to move on with rebuilding my career. But I hope my story shows that fake news is not only a right-wing Trumpian threat. It also is a daily threat from irresponsible, profit-obsessed clickbait outlets.
Yeah.
I didn't write this for pity. I wrote it because to this day, I experience pain at seeing the phrase sexual assault attached to my name on the internet. At the time of the accusation, I was diplomatic and did not state the obvious because we were living in the early days of Me Too, where a man was basically declared guilty by tweet, damn the facts. But definitively, the accusation made against me was 100% false, and the woman made it up, with quite a lot of goading from the Huffington Post author and others in the Facebook chat. Despite this, I support the Me Too movement and survivors because there are a lot of bad men in this world and workplace, and many of those accused are guilty of horrific acts of violence and abuse. In my case, it simply was not true, but unfortunately, I was an early example of a herd mentality rush to judgment. In conclusion, I hope people who spend most of their days and lives on the internet learn to more carefully and closely vet information and accusations of any kind, and not merely draw conclusions based on tribalism or ideology or whatever the hot Twitter hashtag of the moment is. And for those of you who might not realize how bad or big this got, Jordan was working for TYT. Jordan, he was quite popular in the space. He had a following in this space for sure. And there was definitely a lot of people who, and a lot of organizations who were rightly wanting to jump on the Me Too movement, were wanting to take down all the bad men who were, believe all women.
Yeah, they were. I mean, look. Let's be honest. I came up in the '90s where sexual harassment was a very real part of a woman's job, like in the environment, your job. Like all of these stories are believable because there was a certain mentality that existed, through the '90s and 2000s, and even a little bit now. I mean, you still see it. So it was a coming that need to come, right? But that doesn't mean we have to swoop up everything into that. Like, I mean, what about the group that was intentionally looking to target Bernie Sanders a few months back? I mean, I read that too, and I was pretty horrified, where they're like, let's put an ad in Craigslist to get women to come out and falsely accuse Bernie Sanders to take him down. Like, this is really bad. Ladies, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't set our movement back. I mean, it's 2020, and we should have safe spaces to work in and to function in, right? And creating these false narratives just sets the movement back because it gives fuel to the other side that is maintaining this idea that most of these claims are false when they're not.
Right. I'm hoping that this is buffering a bit. I'm hoping that it's just hung up on my end. Jordan hasn't written, so hopefully it's okay. So I want to say that there were a lot of organizations like, a lot of candidates, progressive candidates at that time. A lot of people were, and organizations were going to come out against Jordan and without the facts. Thankfully, that was able to be stopped for the most part. But again, the internet lives on. So once again, to make this crystal clear, there was a Facebook chat group, Facebook Messenger group with several people who were literally plotting to take Jordan down. One of the people in the group, Christian Choculus, is a wife abuser, and he wrote a blog post kind of collecting these thoughts and wrote this post. A lot of organizations picked it up, including The Intercept, and on and on. So this group, they literally said they wanted to take him down like Harvey Weinstein. So there's zero question at all that Jordan did not do this. There's a reason that I very strongly came out in support of him back then. And by the way, I investigated the hell out of him. As someone who has experienced sexual assault, even if someone's my good friend, if they're accused, I'm going to first, believe the woman but I'm going to gather the facts. And gather the facts I did do. I took Jordan's computer. I looked at everything. Like, I did my due diligence in the background for sure. And I 100% was very easily able to come out in support of him and say that he was absolutely innocent. And every smart person saw that for sure, and especially now. So I'm hoping that this still isn't buffering. But okay, so Jordan finishes off here by saying, I hope people who spend most of their days and lives on the internet learn to be more careful and closely vet information and accusations of any kind, and not merely draw conclusions based on tribalism or ideology or whatever the hot Twitter hashtag of the moment is. I think I might have already read that, but that's okay. We got a twofer there. And it's very true. So I hope you guys realize, oh yeah, Not Makes a good point. It was retweeted by Glenn Greenwald. And it is important to pay attention to the facts. Like, obviously we all have empathy and for these women who have been assaulted. I've been assaulted. I'm sure Tia has.
Oh yeah, I mean, in the 90s, I could go on for days about some of the sexual harassment that went on in the workplace. Horrifying stuff, you know, so... Which is why when the Me Too thing finally came around, I was like, I feel all of this because I've experienced that. I've seen it. It was, you know, quite common.
Yeah. So I think that makes us more able to say, like, fuck those who make false accusations. This isn't something to screw around with.
No, it's not. It's not something to screw around with. It's not a joke. That's why it makes me angry. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, like, because you're pissed off, or like someone doesn't want a relationship with you.
As a tool. Yeah, don't use something as a tool that should not be used as a tool, which is sort of what happens, and it's wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that...
But I also want to point out this is the rarity. Yeah. But it shouldn't exist at all. Unfortunately, it does.
Yes, for sure. It's sorry, with the sun it's like hard to see you guys. Yeah, so definitely want to just stress that this is still obviously hard for Jordan. It's hard for his friends and family. Someone's asking why bring this stuff up now? Well, because it's extremely relevant to Trump calling to repeal Section 230. Like, it's exactly what it's about. So obviously Jordan wants some revisions and things like that for a specific reason. Like, Jordan's case is why there need to be revisions, among other reasons as well. So that's why. Also, by the way, imagine your life being taken down like this by a lying loser, a bunch of lying losers and horrible people. Wouldn't you want to make sure that absolutely everyone in the world knows that you didn't do that and would never want to do that, especially if it's still impacting your career today? I'll tell you the behind the scenes. Jane Fleming Klebe wouldn't allow Jordan to come do an interview on a very important story because of this. And I even wrote to her and I said, this is not true. I would not be working with him if this were true, and nothing. So this impacts him today. So, like, we'll talk about it whenever we feel like it. On another note, continue smashing the like button, share this stream. I can't even put into words how I feel. Like, Arya Stark had a certain list. I've got a list like that. So, okay, so that's Jordan's thread. I don't know, how much longer do we have, do you think, before we're parking?
Not very.
We're pretty close. Okay, so it's okay. So I'm gonna zoom on over. I'm gonna skip a couple things that I was gonna bring up. I'll tell you what I was gonna bring up. So I was gonna bring up Claudia Conway, and the reason I was gonna bring up Claudia is because, well, she's 15. She's also the daughter of Kellyanne Conway and George Conway. George Conway, famously a Lincoln Project grifter. He's stepped back from that. Kellyanne has been Trump's right-hand gal. So, poor Claudia. Claudia seems very progressive. She seems to not agree with her parents at all. She has TikTok. She's a Zoomer. So she's been zooming away on TikTok and revealing some very interesting things, including Kellyanne there's one that Kellyanne was like coaching her on what to say. Then there's another where Kellyanne was lying about COVID tests.
Yeah, that's the one I saw this morning. And I have to tell you, I'm disgusted for on Claudia's behalf, because she now has COVID.
Yeah.
And this was entirely avoidable. The thing that angers me the most about the situation is they ignored the science. They ignored what the doctor's advice was. They knowingly put themselves into a high-risk situation, and now innocent folks are paying the price for that, including her 15-year-old daughter. It's pretty grotesque on many levels. This is a virus. It's going to be with her. We don't know yet what the long-term consequences of this virus are. And I'm sure that there are going to be some.
Yeah.
So, if I was Claudia, I'd be furious with my mother. And for her to lie about what I think she said in the video, that you had the first test was negative, then you had 2 that were positive, and anyway, but she was recording this without her mom knowing, and then her mom figured out that she was doing that, I guess is the situation, and then she put a tweet out about it. Kellyanne did, right, saying that everybody else was a sicko, and I'm like, yeah, no, you put your daughter in a very dangerous situation, and the fact of the matter is it's public because you're in the public, and she's chosen to speak out. You know, she's a 15-year-old. She's a teenager. That's, you know, kind of what teenagers do. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I have high hopes for Claudia. She seems like a cool,
right?
cool chick.
It surprised me if she liked Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I don't know. She seems progressive.
Claudia, if you see this and you like Bernie Sanders, give us a shout out.
Yeah. Dave says we need an intervention for Claudia. I agree. Poor Claudia.
Let's send somebody in. Blink twice if you need help, Claudia.
So, I wanted to also, going back to when Jordan was falsely accused 3 years ago, I saw someone asking about Tim Black related to this. So I'll tell you here very clearly. Tim Black had this lying woman, I have other words for her, had her on his show for 3 hours of which I sat down, and it was his brother's birthday, and we were at his brother's apartment. And Jordan sat in the hallway because it was really sad and devastating and horrible. And so I sat around the kitchen table in there with his parents and watched this thing for 3 hours, where this woman went on to Tim Black, not challenged at all, no journalism at all, and was allowed to say whatever she wanted to about her accusation against Jordan. So this woman is so, there's not really much upstairs. She's kind of dumb. So she discredited herself by saying that her husband convinced her that she had been raped, among other things. She was it was completely ridiculous. It was 3 hours long. She was clearly making stuff up. Just a horrible 3 hours of absurdity. So to Tim Black, about Tim Black, what I have to say is that's not journalism. What you did is for clicks. You helped to try to destroy a good man's life, a good journalist's life. That is not journalism. That's not even humane. Why would you do that? Why would you have someone on for 3 hours to lie and try to destroy someone's career? Tim Black has not apologized. He doesn't feel bad about this. What he has tried to do, now that Status Coup is a network to watch out for, he's tried to reach out to collaborate, and he's tried to reach out, and so fuck Tim Black. That's it. That's all I have to say. Fuck Tim Black. No. If anyone says, like, why don't you guys make up? No, that's unforgivable. He also wouldn't have, there were 2 witnesses. He wouldn't have them on. It was clearly a hit job, a part of a hit job. And obviously the witnesses were present. They completely backed Jordan. They completely, again, helped to discredit this woman who, by the way, discredited herself. So I hope that clears everything up for you. And I have no patience for people like that. Dave says Tim is in no position to push back. Why not? You don't just have some person on and turn a microphone on and publish it in Vanity Fair. He vets it. They talk to people. They interview people. They look at the facts. They look at the information. And in this case, he could have, I don't know that we would have given them to him at the time, but we had the chats that completely absolved Jordan. So when as Jordan says, he refused to have 2 eyewitnesses on who verified that the woman was making it up. Tim Black has an agenda. Tim Black is not, I don't want to say he's not a good person, but he certainly was not in that instance. So we're going to end with one more story that's going to make you say, There's so many of those stories these days. In the meantime, please remember, that would be fun. Seriously, though, it helps us with our travel, with eating, with with everything going on. Herb W. I was on the fence on whether to continue following this channel. Thanks for helping me decide to unsubscribe. Bye-bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Herb. I'll talk to Tim Daybell. I mean, there's no reason to talk to him. I'm happy for you to say Jen says fuck you, Tim, but there's no reason to talk to him, so do what you want. Okay, so this story, Fox News. I do not, of course, usually report from Fox News, but this one came up in my Apple news feed, and I just had to kind of shake my head. I showed Tina too, and I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Tina's eyes got so big. So the headline here, gross. I know Trump would not get away with this. Joe Biden has been raising eyebrows again with remarks he made to a group of beautiful young ladies during a campaign stop in Miami. While paying a visit on Monday to the Little Haiti Cultural Center, Biden closed his remarks by quipping to the crowd, "Good news is, for me, I'm here. The bad news for you is that I'm coming back." Then spotted asked for comment of the U.S. Constitution and highlighted, he shall hold his office during become a member of Status Coup for as low as $5 a month, statuscoup.com/join. And you can support our road trip fundraiser at statuscoup.com/West Coast. Assuming that anybody out there can hear me, I love you all. Keep watching. Bye-bye.